Hello there, YouTube. I am wearing black and darkish lipstick in order to channel my inner Yousana right now. This might possibly be my last video about this show. Episode 8 ended with a certain character coming back, and then the clips from episode 9 that I've seen so far, they both show Sana wondering where on earth could Nora have possibly gone. What the fuck? Of all the things that we could be spending our precious few moments on, we're dealing with that. Where on earth could Nora be? Oh, I don't know, maybe with her shitty boyfriend. I've actually compiled a list of all of the other questions that I prefer would be answered rather than have us spend time on, oh my god, where's Nora? Okay, so for one, Ramadan. How come Ramadan has been mentioned like 3 times on the show? We haven't seen what the spiritual component of Ramadan is. So Jamila was mentioned in the very first clip of the season. I thought that she'd be more important than she is. We saw Jamila for the first time in season 2, in which Sana said she knew her because Jamila was engaged to her older brother, and in a text, Vilda asked if this older brother was Elias, and Sana said, no, she has another older brother. Where the hell is this other older brother? Does he actually exist, or was Sana lying? Was Jamila actually engaged to Elias and they broke up? Or is there another older brother that they've never mentioned? What's he do? What's his life like? Is he still engaged to Jamila? What the hell's going on? How come in all the seasons of Skam, the characters did something that they were ashamed of, and they isolated themselves from their friends and from everybody really. But when Sana does it, suddenly her friends say that they don't like her as much, even though when they were going through some bullshit, Sana was the first one to defend them. And how did they go from not liking Sana as much to the next day where they have a van and they say, if you fuck with Sana, you fuck with us? How did they know that the Pepsi Max girls fucked with Sana? Because Sana never said anything about why she released those messages on Instagram. She never mentioned how the Pepsi Max girls had kicked her off the bus. And how many of the Pepsi Max girls actually know about this story? Do they just think that Sana decided to attack Sarah for no reason? Or do they know about Sana being kicked off the bus? In episode 5, some of the Pepsi Max girls had mentioned that Vilda said that Elias had called Sana a slave. Was Vilda talking shit behind Sana's back? And is everything forgiven in terms of like everything that Vilda has said through 4 seasons just because of the van thing? Why the hell would Isak start a fight with some random guy? How could he get so jealous from seeing his boyfriend talk to another person that he feels a need to punch that other person? And no, he was drunk, as Vilda said, is not an excuse. One, when we saw him in that clip, he did not appear drunk. Secondly, that's a huge deal. If your boyfriend doesn't let you talk to somebody else, they get so jealous that they become angry and violent if you so much as have a 2-minute conversation with somebody else. Like, that's a red flag for an abusive relationship, and it's like completely out of character for Isak. And why the hell did that fight even happen? Why does it feel like the plot is happening to the characters and the characters are just doing random shit in order to create a lot of drama and for shock value and shit? How come every time Yusuf and Sana talk, they get interrupted? How come they haven't had a fucking conversation since episode 4? So, yeah, I am disappointed with some things happening this season. a lot of the plots that are going on, I'm just not interested in. And even though before the season started, I was not into the idea of Sana having a love interest, when Yusuf was introduced, I loved him. I loved their relationship, and I made a whole other video about that. I felt like they did a very good job in the first half of the season doing this slow burn romance where Yusuf tries to talk to Sana, or at least like make eye contact with her quite a few times, and she either doesn't respond or she looks away. And it was building up the tension until we get to episode 3 when they have their first conversation. In episode 4, the best from Islam, the best clip, the best fucking clip in the entire season. It just makes me sad that we could have had more of that. But instead what happened is, with the introduction of this love triangle and with like miscommunication plots, that whole story, like they just step on the brakes for like 4 episodes. Half of the season wasted with these characters not talking to each other at all. And you know, I do get that the love triangle was there in part because Sana feels insecure about how Nora is so beautiful. She has blonde hair and blue eyes, and she's ethnically Norwegian, and people don't judge her the way that they judge Sana. You didn't need to have Nora and Yusuf kiss in order to highlight Sana's insecurities. We already saw how Sana reacted when Yusuf and Nora were just talking together, and then in the second episode when Nora asked a few questions about Yusuf, how Sana was very defensive. So we already see that going on. Like, we didn't need a kiss. And it really bugs me that we're in episode 9. They've had like 2 in-depth conversations and like a few smaller interactions. When it's episode 8 and there's only 10 episodes in the season, I wanted things to move on to them actually talking to each other. But as soon as I think like, oh, they're finally gonna have a fucking conversation after 4 episodes of not talking, William shows up. So one of my favorite things about season 4 is like all of the potential. I love seeing Sana with her family, with her brother. The balloon squad is just awesome. But what I do not like about it is how too much time was spent on these stories that I don't give a shit about. And then too much time was wasted with the Yusuf and Sana relationship. They could have had them get together in episode 5. They could have shown how that relationship builds and evolves over time. But instead, they just had these characters not talk for 4 episodes. As an example of another couple on Skam that I felt like they did a great job at showing their love story, Isak and Even. You know what was so great about Isak and Even? They fucking talked to each other. Every episode, they talked to each other. I will say that in episode 6, 7, and 9, they do not talk much to each other. Like, they don't have necessarily a full-blown conversation, but they still interact with each other a little bit in those 3 episodes. 70% of the episodes, 7 episodes out of 10, it involves them having at least 1, if not more, in-depth conversations. They do put conflict into the relationship, but the difference is that conflict doesn't make that relationship come to a screeching halt for 4 episodes so that they're not even talking to each other at all for like half of the fucking season. I really liked how every scene in season 3, it had a purpose. It did not feel like filler. Even some scenes with Isak and Even, like, they might have looked like cute fluff from afar. When you take a closer look, you see, oh, that scene wasn't just there to be cute. It was there to like teach us about the characters, to have the characters interact with each other and learn about each other more. So let's take the call your girlfriend neon party scene. When they're in the kitchen, Evan talks about how things aren't working out with Sonia, but he can't break up with her because she has an aluminum leg. Obviously, he was lying about her leg, but I knew that something was wrong, and maybe he felt obligated to stay with Sonia for some reason. After Isak and Evan have their first kiss, and there's that scene where they're cuddling and kissing and smoking and talking to each other. Again, that looks like a very cute scene, but it's also very necessary in getting us to learn more about the characters. We learn about why Isak moved out of his home and lived in this flat share with Eskild and Lynn. We heard about parallel universes, which is referenced throughout the season. And we got our first major hint, or at least I got my first major hint, that Evan was mentally ill when he talked about being alone with his thoughts and the only thing out was through death. I thought, damn, that guy sounds really depressed. And then that was confirmed for me later on in the episode. And Isak says that his mom's insane. He doesn't want anything to do with her. He figures that his life would be better without mentally ill people in his life. Like you can see, it's very subtle. You see that expression on Evan's face where it's like, oh, his heart drops. And then with the scene at the very beginning of episode 8, again, very necessary moving along with the plot. One, are things for sure over between you and Sonia? Because last time you said it was over, you went back with her. Also, we have Evan being very happy. He was dancing and it was very cute. I love watching that scene over and over again. But it's also where I was like, I knew when that clip dropped that Evan was most likely bipolar. So I feel like Isak and Evan's story, it's an example of very great love story where you see at the beginning when they're first interacting with each other, you see awkward silences, but over the season you see them spend a lot of time together so that I'm able to actually buy their romance. Because I said this before a few times, when it comes to romance, I need more than having two characters who are sexually attracted to each other. Yes, having them be attracted to each other, that's of course important for a romance, but that's not the only thing. I need more than like lingering gazes and like them staring at each other from across the room. Although, yes, that's also an important component, but another component is the friendship, the actual relationship, having the characters talk to each other, having them learn more about each other and interact with each other, and seeing them like slowly fall in love over time through interacting with each other. That is what's important to me. I know that when the season first started, I saw some people say that they're not interested in the Yusuf and Sana relationship because there's not going to be a kiss scene. Maybe there will be, maybe there won't be. I don't know how comfortable, the actors are with like making out. But I don't need a makeout scene. I was actually really excited to see a different kind of love story. It doesn't have to be super physical. It's okay to show a romance where there's not going to be any sex scenes or any makeout scenes or anything like that. Again, rely on having the characters talk to each other. That's more important to me. I'm just really disappointed with how the Yusuf and Sana relationship went because I felt like it was wasted potential. They had so much potential to explore all of these interesting things with their relationship, but they completely ruined it by not having the characters interact with each other. Of course, with season 4, I also am not interested in most of the subplots. And I got a comment earlier where somebody was saying, I don't feel like Sana's being overshadowed by all the subplots. It's the last season. You have to wrap up everything. But you know what? Season 1, it was Eva's season, but it also did the job of introducing all of the characters. It showed us the relationship between her and Jonas, and Isak. It showed us her relationship between her and the girl squad. It showed Vilda's storyline with Vilda and William. It introduced the Penetrator boys. We also dealt with what had happened before the season started with Sarah and Ingrid and Eva, and what happened to their friendship. And each character had their own distinct personalities and distinct motives for doing why they were doing stuff. It did all of those things, but it still felt like Eva's season, and it still felt like a cohesive story. It didn't feel muddled. I felt like season 1 was the strongest written season. So this idea that, oh, there's all this crap in Sana's season because it's the last one. No, there's a way to wrap it up in a way that makes sense, and that's paced very well, and where all of the resolutions feel earned. Because so far the resolutions haven't felt earned to me. It felt like they just stuck a huge bow on this issue that is Sana and her relationship with the girl squad. When watching season 1, I never felt like, damn, they're spending way too much time on this storyline. They should spend more time on this other storyline instead. It never felt badly written. It never felt dragged out. It never felt like they were doing this one storyline a disservice by focusing on the other storylines. It was very well balanced in that way. I never felt like, damn, I'm tired with this storyline. Enough of this already. And I feel like that constantly with season 4. I'm just tired. I'm just tired. Yeah, it's sad because the show's ending. The first episode was so strong. One of my favorite episodes in Skam. I wanted the season with my favorite character to be my favorite season. But unfortunately it isn't. Unfortunately.